Who's your emergency contact? Who should we notify in the case of death? Welcome to the USP, where I spent the last 2+ decades of my life. Now I'm in Atwater. As I mentioned in the prior video, I end up with a cell phone. I end up with a lot of stuff. You know, when I'm in there, I'm hustling. I'm always trying to find ways to make money so that I don't have to call home and burden my family. I take a certain pride in able to take care of myself. Because, you know, my family was not part of the things that I was doing out there in the streets. So when I got locked up, I didn't want to burden them with trying to support me financially inside there. And plus, them not being from the street, they wouldn't be able to understand anyway, because they know, well, they feed us 3 times a day. We have a place to sleep. What else do you want and need while you're in prison? But outside of the 3 meals, which half of it you can't even stomach, and a place to sleep, anything else you want, anything else you need, you're gonna have to find a way to come up with it. If you got money, yeah, you can get whatever you want. But if you don't, you gotta hustle. I wasn't no drug kingpin on the street. I didn't hit any $1 million licks out here. By the time I got done fighting my case, the 28 months, 3 years that it took, I didn't have shit. I went into the penitentiary with nothing but my nuts and heart. But through the course of my time, I was able to garnish respect, earn my way into certain relationships, and then was able to live my life in the penitentiary the way I wanted to. So I got a cell phone. You know, I've never seen a cell phone until that time. This is about 2000, maybe 13. I don't even know how to use a cell phone. I can barely dial out, you know, but I was cool with that. You know, when I passed it around to my homeboys or whatever for them to use, because I shared it with people that I trust. But the purpose of us getting a cell phone was able to talk to people on the streets so that we can make moves. So we had this white boy. I'm trying to remember his name, but he's out of Seattle. He's out of Oregon, Portland. And he used to gamble at my poker table. And everything that came with his name was good. He was an honorable dude. He was good. He can be trusted. And he had resources. So he'd been asking me for a few days, like, hey, man, what's up? He goes, man, I got to connect on the street, but I need to be able to talk to him and communicate with him. Because, you know, at this time, there's rumors that there's a bunch of cell phones on the compound now. Because we had 6 of them. We sold them to different individuals. I don't know what they did or didn't do with any of them. But people knowing who I am and that I always have my hands in things, they're going to assume that I have access to this cell phone. They don't know that it's personally mine, but they know that if something's on the compound, I'm going to have access to it. So the white boy come and ask me, he's like, hey, man, I got this lick. I just need to talk to somebody on the streets and we can get it down and we can get it put together. So I told him, yeah, I can plug you up to, you know, before we even had this conversation, we've been getting to know each other through however many months or year that he was there already. So when he came and asked me, I told him, yeah, I got a plug. I can get you on the phone. So I snuck him into my unit. You know, I live in 101. But I had a couple people look out while I took him upstairs because I didn't want him to know that even though I trusted him, there's always certain levels of trust. I didn't want him to know. He can think about it. He can assume it. But assuming something and actually knowing something is 2 different things. So I'm pretty sure he assumed that this was my cell phone. But I never presented that it was mine. I told him I had access to one. And then when I invited him into my unit, we were in another cell using a cell phone. I had to look out at the window and I had to look out at the door, because in a penitentiary, no matter what time of day, no matter what time of night, they have these compound officers that are supposed to be on the compound, but might want to decide to come into your block and shake your block down. Or the CO's that's working, you know, he has the easiest job in the world, but he don't want it to be easy. He don't want to just sit in his office. He might want to walk around and go shake down cells. So to protect myself, I had 2 lookouts to make sure that any type of movement on the compound that he sees with the compound COs, he's going to let me know. Any type of movement in the unit with the CO coming out of their office, he's going to let me know. Because I had an old Sony radio. It was a big yellow one. Now, these cell phones that we got were not some discreet Apple Watch. These were big ass, thick IKEA or some shit, right? I don't even know the name, but they were about this big and about that thick. I don't know how other people hid their shit, but I took an old Walkman radio, not a Walkman, but it's a radio. I gutted it out. I took out all the inside. It was an old one that was sold back in the 90s. They don't sell them anymore in the penitentiary. Now every radio you get, every clock you get is all clear plastic that they can see all the wiring and stuff. But this one was still hard plastic, was black and yellow. So I gutted it all out just enough. You know, we took a dental floss, because there's pieces in there, plastic pieces in there that are in the way. And we took the dental floss and scraped them up and cleaned it out, so it made a little flat, smooth surface that you can slide the cell phone in. Then I had somebody in the leather shop make a case for it. You know, because some people walk around with a case to protect their radio in a leather case. So somebody sewed up a leather pouch that we can seal that we can place the radio in. So that kept the radio from opening up. Because once you gut it out, you can't really put the screws back in, you know? So anyway, we were able to gut out a radio and stick the cell phone in, so that way I can walk around on a compound with my radio on me and no one would be the wiser. So I brought the white boy into my unit. I put him on the phone with his people. They talked about how we're gonna make this move and this and that. Gave the people on the streets instructions on how to do it. Again, I would love to go into the details and share with you exactly what we were doing. But again, if there's people that's watching these videos that are law enforcement or that works in the penitentiary, I don't want to hip them to the game, because, you know, when you're locked up in the penitentiary, it doesn't stop your life. It doesn't stop some of the responsibilities you have. Yeah, you're far away from the world. You don't have your freedom, and the shit is miserable. But if you're a parent, if you're a father, because I'm in the men's penitentiary, you still got to find a way, if you're any type of man, to help support your kid, to help support your wife. You know, maybe you can't take care of their rent, but you want to be able to send something home for their birthdays, or send something home for their holidays. And having a penitentiary job, they start you out at $5 a month. And the highest you can go to is maybe $120. You know, back then, when I first went to the penitentiary, they had this thing called Unicor, where it's a real factory. You know, I've been in there making license plates, signs, the road signs, you know, deer crossing, you know, beware of ducks, you know, all this shit for all the recreational parks and stuff. I was in there making the signs. I was there for like 2 months before I got caught up and got hit in the head with a hammer. But, you know, back then you were able to make some money. Like with longevity, with bonuses and stuff, people were coming home with $400 or $500 checks a month. But now, at present time, in a penitentiary, you're lucky if you can find a job that pays you over $225, maybe $200 bonuses. But this is a month. Now, some of you might think, oh, $200 a month in a penitentiary is good money. Well, that depends on what kind of lifestyle you're living. I fuck off $200 in one shot. You know, I used to be, I don't want to say an addict, but I used to be a heavy user. So I smoke weed, I smoke cigarette, I drink, I do other drugs. So my lifestyle was very expensive. And I didn't realize how expensive it was until I got removed from Atwater and went somewhere else that I didn't have all the plug and connection and the hustle that I did in Atwater. But in Atwater, it was just an everyday thing. I'm averaging maybe $200 a day that I'm making off the yard just from all my gambling and different hustles. But I never saved it. Like I said, I never thought about ever coming home, ever putting money away to have, you know, a nest egg. But at the same time, you know, when I was with my wife at this time, she came down with an illness and she got sick. She had to go to the emergency hospital. She had to pay for monthly drugs, you know, medications that was freaking messing her up psychologically. There was a lot of things that she was going through, and I was fortunate enough at that time that I was able to have some money, send some money home, and help her with the situation. But, you know, I don't count any of that stuff. My everyday thing is to survive the day. So wherever my hustle needs to go, whether it's to help my mind relax or help me escape from the place or send it home to my wife to help her with whatever she needs, that's what it was there for. So I got this white boy. He talks to his people to get these things sent in. And we got them sent in. But we and him had this conversation. We agreed that no one else is privy to what we're doing. You don't speak about this to no one. You don't tell, you don't share that, especially you don't share the hustle with anyone. And the reason is that I'm not being a hater. I'm just protecting my interests, because you have a lot of copycat dudes. They see somebody doing something. They don't really know exactly how it's done, but they start imagining and envisioning and getting an idea, and they do it, but they don't do it the correct way. And then the package gets busted, then it fucks it up for everybody else. So that's part of the reason that I told him that this stays between us. If you ever need money, come holler at me. And if I ever need money, I'll come holler at you. If you ever need the product, come holler at me, and vice versa. So that way, no one else is privy to what we're doing. But you know, the old saying goes, don't get high off your own supply. So at this time, we're getting methamphetamine in. And he's a user. But he's also a white boy that run independent. He's not affiliated with any of the skinhead gangs, with any of the white supremacy gangs. So the gangs there in Atwater felt like they can push up on him. You know, I can see it on the compound. I can see it as I'm talking to him, as our dealing, or when something comes in that wasn't scheduled. You know, the first 2 months, he kept to his word that it was just going to be me and him doing whatever we were doing. But after a couple months, there was things on the compound that I know can only come from our lick. But it wasn't our lick. Somebody else had it. It's another white boy that had it. And then there was a period in time for a couple weeks that the yard was flooded. And now I'm looking, you know, and I asked him, I said, hey, I said, you know, we had a conversation about this. What's going on? Oh, no, man, everything's cool, man. I said, listen, are these white boys pushing up on you? Because I have the clout, I have the resources and the homies to meet any challenge. There was no car in the penitentiary that we were afraid of or that we weren't willing to go to war with over our principles, over our own interests. And there was no car in Atwater, no matter how big, no matter how tough, no matter how they were connected, that ever felt that they could be a pushover on me or my homeboys. And everybody knows that I'm not going to speak on a subject unless I'm willing to see it through, whether that means somebody's life or my own. You know, I mind my business until I have to, until I have to insert myself. And if I insert myself, then I'm all in. I never do anything halfway. And it was understood through the course of my bid, through the situations that I've been prior to this time. It was understood. So in Atwater, who I am, my reputation was established. But I can't assume things. Like I tell you, it's one thing to really know what's going on, but not. He's not saying that, yeah, these white boys are pushing up on me, or these white boys are, making me do this or making me do that. Because he has his own pride that he wants to hold on to. And he doesn't want people to know that maybe he's not as tough or maybe he's not as respected as he's presenting himself to be. Now, like I said, before this, everything I knew about this individual was good. We weren't just partners in what we were doing. I consider him a friend. And when I consider someone a friend, I'm always going to aid and assist whatever situation that comes up. But I can't just go approach somebody and say, hey, I know you're doing this to this homie or whatever, and you need to cut it out if the homie's not saying that that's what's happening. But I know that's what's happening because I know how the penitentiary works. He lived in a unit in 3B with all the skinhead gangs, with all the white supremacy gang. And some of them were fucking retarded knuckleheads, cold dumbasses, thought they were tough. So, but it ended up at a boiling point. I told him, if you need anything, come to me. If I need anything, come to you, keep it between us. But he got pressed on, he got pressured, and he didn't keep his word. So now these dumbass white boys in his block know the lick. But they don't have no way to communicate with their people the way I have it. So they go through their codes and do whatever that they can try to get word to their homeboys to fucking be able to get the stuff in. And I'm pretty sure you can assume where the conclusion is coming, what the conclusion is. So he ends up fucking getting paranoid. His cellie, his name is Leslie. His name is Leslie. Now, Leslie is a kid from Louisiana. Youngster, cold nut, but good dude. But he ran independent too. And one of them skinhead white boys that was bigger than him tried to push up on him. And Leslie beat the shit out of him in the cell. So everybody see that this kid Leslie is a little skinny white boy, but they better leave him the fuck alone. So he had a little clout in the pet. When we were in Atwater, it's just, not anybody that was a shot caller or anything like that, but people respected him because he was a good kid. And if you push up on him, he's going to bust your ass. Well, he was this individual white boy's cellie. And after the incident, he came out to the compound because he knew that we were partners. He said, hey, man, your homeboy checked in. I said, what do you mean he checked in? He said, man, he's in there doing shots, doing vials. Fucking, I don't know how many cc's or whatever, but he's shooting up meth in the cell and fucking got paranoid, thinking that the white boy was going to bring him a move. Well, the only reason that he would even, for me to assume that he would even be paranoid that somebody's going to bring in a move is that maybe you have a guilty conscience, But whatever was going on, he didn't keep the word that he was supposed to have kept with me. Because if he did that, we would have been eating a long time without any problems. So he gets sent to the SHU. While he's in the SHU, the white boys in his unit are doing whatever they're doing because of the information they got from him, and they get everything knocked. They got 4, so they come into the block and lock up like 4 or 5 of them. So there's 5 white boys back in the shoe for investigation, attempted introduction, whatever. Everything has to do with narcotics coming into the penitentiary. So my homeboy Silva, the one I mentioned before, that was kind of a spokesman for us, he had a pretty good relationship with one of the secretaries that worked in his block. Not as far as her bringing him anything in or anything like that, but if we want to know who's back in the shoe, what cell they're in, so we can send them stuff, you know, care packages and stuff, she would let us know. So I asked him, I said, hey, can you hit up that lady and ask her what's going on with these individuals back there? I didn't tell him why I'm inquiring, because I know they're all locked up. And I had a package coming in, and my package never made it. But I already knew that all these other shit got busted, which, like I said, if he would have just kept the conversation between us, no one would even know to even be looking for anything. And mine would have just kept coming in like clockwork. But now that these white boys got in the mix and fucked everything up, nothing's coming through. And I had a good sized package coming and it got knocked. So, but nobody knows about my package but him. So I gave my homeboy Silva a list of names. I said, man, find out what tier they're on and where they're at, what cell they're in. So he goes back. The next day he comes back with my list. He said, oh, this dude is in the shoe. He's on range 1. This one's on range C, range B. Oh, this one's in 1B. Now, 1B at the time was an overflow for the shoe. But the overflow was pretty much reserved for people that were not in good standing anymore. People that checked in, you know, people that got beat off the yard, or people that can't be on the yard. So when I seen his name was in 1B, I was like, damn. Because, you know, when you hear people say, oh, this guy checked in, this guy say that, I don't run with that. I wait until I get all the facts before I make assumptions or any type of judgment. But the name came back and he said, oh yeah, these people are over here in the shoe, but this guy over here, he's in 1B, and she didn't get a chance to go see him because the FBI came and interviewed him. Now, I don't know what was said in the interview with this individual and the FBI. I just know that I couldn't do the hustle that I was doing anymore through that avenue with him. And it fucked everything up. I'm going to emphasize this. Whether it's out in the world or in the penitentiary, same rules apply. If you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing that can get you caught up, you better do it by yourself. Because at the end of the day, I tell you, the only person you can rely on, the only person you can count on, the only person you can trust with absolute certainty is you. And you know you, and you know if you can trust yourself or not. Anything that you're doing, whether you're speaking bad about someone or speaking on a subject or sharing a story, once it leaves your mouth to another person's ear, it's no longer a secret. Eventually, that person that you spoke to and confide in has a person that they trust and confides in, and so on and so forth. You know, somebody told me once, what's the difference between a rumor and a secret? A rumor, everybody knows about it. A secret, everybody knows about it, just one person at a time. So, like I said, you got to mind your P's and Q's. I'm not here to tell you what to do, how to live your life. But part of my episode is just sharing you my experience and how things work out and how things don't work out and why they don't work out. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to the USP.